Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk H.P. Lovecraft. If you have not subscribed already, get on it. What are you waiting for? Because today we're talking about another H.P. Lovecraft masterpiece in the form of the Dream-Quest of Unknown Kadath, written 1926 and 1927, but unfortunately, very unfortunately, not published until after his death in 1943 by Arkham House. That's a real shame because if this story didn't give him a burgeoning career, I don't know what would have, because it's his masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. It is the longest story in his dream cycle. It is also the longest story to feature his famous character Randolph Carter, who you have recognized from some of these other reviews, including yesterday's The Silver Key. If you do the audiobook version, it'll take you about 4 hours, and I recommend doing that. But if you have a physical copy with you, read along. It really makes this story pop. So John Carter, he dreams 3 times of a majestic city in the distance, but he cannot get there. Every time he tries, the vision is pulled away from him. But he's obsessed with visiting this location, so he decides that he's going to travel to the mountain of the gods, Kadath, a sort of Olympus in the Dreamlands, to demand admittance into this paradise because he is an experienced dreamer. He is fearless, and he feels he has a right to go here. He begins asking around how to reach Kadath to beseech the gods. Nobody really knows, but he begins putting together the pieces. He gets a hint here, he gets a hint there, that begin to set him along on his quest. He climbs mountains, he sails seas, he's shanghaied by pirates, he descends into an underworld where he meets unexpected friends and makes unexpected enemies along the way. Eventually, he passes over the plateau of Lang, crosses a vast wasteland, and comes to the mountain castle of Kadath. But the gods have deserted Kadath. Remaining only there is Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep tells him that basically the gods have left Kadath. They've gone to your city because of its grandeur, because of its splendor, and they need to come back here and continue fulfilling their role as the gods of the Dreamlands, of Earth's Dreamlands, that is. But he then goes on to tell Randolph Carter in very poetic terms about the beauties of New England, where he came from, and that this city that he's seen is really the distillation of his youth, the splendor of his youth in New England, in his home, sort of distilled down and pressed like carbon into a diamond, and that is the end result. But really, if he wants to reach the splendorous paradise city, what he really has to do is turn around, because paradise is behind him rather than ahead of him. But Nyarlathotep puts him on a beast, gives him instructions to fly to this city, and along the way, it's a terrible experience, and Randolph Carter decides that if he jumps, he will wake up. And he does. He jumps off the steed, falls through time and space, and wakes up in his flat back in Boston. Yeah, it is, in a nutshell, we're talking The Wizard of Oz meets Alice in Wonderland, but it's also got shades of more recent things like the movie Avatar, or if you go back to the 80s, early 90s, very much has a lot in common with Labyrinth, the goofy film with all the fraud goblin creatures, and of course David Bowie acting like a jackass. There's very much all of those things really feel like they were inspired by this, but being Lovecraft, it is wholly original in its own right. Just the level of invention here is ridiculous. It's just pure unbridled imagination. In the story, one of the cool things is we meet some characters from other Lovecraft works who we've already met. It turns out that in one of the most intriguing parts of the story, Pickman from Pickman's Model is there. The former artist from Boston who used to draw pictures of ghouls who came up out of the well in his basement studio. Well, Pickman is now among the leaders of the ghouls, he has become a ghoul himself, sort of become more mindless and flesh-eating, but he can be reasoned with. He speaks a little bit of English still, and he is able to help out Randolph Carter along the way. One of the more interesting things about this whole universe is the geography of it, the geography of the Dreamlands. So there is the surface, but there's also the heavens. Apparently, if you sail far enough along the ocean, you can take flight and sail to the moon. There's a whole section of the story where he is shanghaied by pirates with horns on their heads and taken to the moon. The ship actually flies to the moon, where he is rescued by cats, common house cats from Ulthar. Apparently, by the night of the full moon, they can leap into space and go to the moon, and cats rescue him from cannibals. But also, there's deeper places. There's subterranean worlds, an underworld, if you will, occupied by ghouls and several other species whose names I cannot recall. There's flying creatures underground, of all places, which is really neat. And then there's also places that are described as being really at the gates of wakefulness. Really, they're close to our world, close to the waking world, whereas other places are involving more deep sleep, which is just a brilliant way of describing this whole thing. Sort of reminds me a little of Inception in that way. And then there's the place that he's in, which is Earth's dreamland, but apparently other worlds have their own dreamlands, and they are accessible through the dreams. So basically, he's created a situation where mentally, the entire universe, more universe than is available to us here in the waking world, is available to you if you are able to master the art of dreaming. He populates this place with an incredible menagerie of names that you cannot pronounce. Some of them you can, but a menagerie of creatures and plants and locations, and it really reminds me of Pandora from Avatar. A lot of things are described as being phosphorescent, and there's a lot of flying creatures, dragon-like creatures, and there's also more recognizable things, ghouls and goblins and demons and every manner of creature that you can come across. He really, it's original, but he also, in a way, does things that call to mind other things, real-world things, as well as things that are just, wow, where did he come away with that idea? But in the end, there's no place like home, which is very much out of Wizard of Oz. All this while, Dorothy was looking for home, but all she had to do was tap her heels through time, wake up, and she's back in her bed where she loves best, as opposed to being over the rainbow, which is pretty, but it's not home. And it really makes sense, because our dreams, we dream from experience, but our experiences are sort of tied up and respun out to our imagination in unrecognizable ways, but yet symbolically, they all come from what we know and love, and what we fear. So everything that a writer imagines does come from somewhere, and Lovecraft especially, New England, the New England of John Carter is very much the New England of H.P. Lovecraft, and it makes sense. It's hard to detach any of Lovecraft's narrators from Lovecraft himself, because we know that he longed for New England whenever he was away from it, and that was sort of his safe place. And I think that was very much the case with Randolph Carter, who spent time looking in his dreams for satisfaction, but it was all around him. Yeah, guys, it is like hallucinogenic fantasy on crack. I can just imagine it as like a big to moderate budget movie. If someone could do it right, the correct combination of sort of special effects, but also like cerebral, good acting, good writing, I think it could be really something groundbreaking. Sort of like, I don't know, like Avatar meets Memento, or something like that, meets Inception, meets The Cell, meets any number of things. A little bit of Wizard of Oz, as I was saying, a little bit of Alice in Wonderland, but it's just incredible, incredible story. Best 4 hours that I have spent in a long, long time. I'm working my way through the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. I've read all but maybe 10 or so of his stories now, and this one for me, this is the Lovecraft masterpiece. I'm going to review it here in a couple weeks at the Mountains of Madness, Shadows over Innsmouth. The Case of Charles Dexter Ward is next, and I've read some of these already. But as far as I'm concerned, this for me is the best story. I know At the Mountains of Madness gets a lot of the recognition, but that's a little bit bland in my opinion. I do like Shadow over Innsmouth, but neither of those sort of represent the pure imagination. This is Lovecraft at his best. And it's a shame that it was not published in his lifetime, because I think had it been, we'd be looking at a completely different history of Lovecraft's life, because it's incredible. It's hard to explain. It's just mind blown. Love it, and I think you will love it too. I did give away some stuff, but I was very not specific, so I think you will still, have you not read it already, be really intrigued, be moved, and it will affect your dreams tonight. I started reading last night, finished up this morning, and it occupied my mind all night long, which is for me like the highest compliment of any story. And if you dream about this story, it's very fitting, because it is, of course, in the dreamlands of H.P. Lovecraft. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. As I said up front, if you've not subscribed already, what the hell are you waiting for? Please join the community here. We're up to 580 subscribers. Thank you, number 580, who showed up yesterday. And yeah, guys, I'll be back with the Case of Charles Dexter Ward review here maybe tomorrow, maybe not. Tomorrow's Easter. I may take the day off. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again soon. Keep it creepy.